This conference will now be recorded.
And Jim, don't spend your whole birthday sitting here. So we'll get right on with this. Confirmation of the agenda. I need a mover and seconder, please.
I'll move it.
Michael and Brian. And that's as amended, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, it is. Sorry. Yep.
Okay, so as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is carried. I see Akash has joined, so we're all good now. Any declaration of pecuniary interest you can declare now or at any time through the meeting. And are we set to go into closed? We've got everyone here for that, do we, Dave?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll have to go over to the other side and see.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right. We're good? Okay.
Yep.
So I need the motion to go into closed. And let me read this. To address matters related to advice that subject to solicitor-client privilege and personal matters about identifiable individual, and that's recent court decision, verbal update with township solicitor. Third-party information supplied in confidence, section 239 to 1 of subject economic development project that the proponent and investor required to be confidential until property is purchased and for other competitive business reasons. And that's a verbal update. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please?
Mayor Woodbury,
Yeah.
just before we move it, can I add that Taylor Carson of Agro Zafro LLP also be in attendance?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
So does, who would like to move this?
I'll move it, John.
Okay, Martin, seconded by Barbara. Any discussion? Okay, anyone opposed? That is moved, and we'll recess for a couple of minutes while we switch over there.
Lindsay, we have to leave, right? And go over.
Yes, that's correct, Barbara.
Hey, Clint, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Talked to those property owners there on Main Street yesterday. Both of them indicate that there's zero lot line there. That's not what kind of it's showing us, but
Yeah, it's not a zero lot line in any case. I think they need to go back
okay.
and get a
Well,
survey and have a look.
okay.
Like we could show them the aerial photo of what we have with, and we could probably show them the original lot fabric, which would show their lots there. So either way, it's still on them to figure that out, I think.
Hi, just reminding everyone it's still being recorded.
Kayla, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Looks
Okay,
like,
everybody.
oh, sorry. Looks like we're waiting on Councillor Rice,
Okay,
but we have quorum, so.
okay. So it's 10:35. We'll call the meeting back to order. And we only discussed the items that we had said previously in closed session. Lindsay, can we have the first motion, please?
Sure, Mayor Woodbury. So for 5.1, motion coming out of closed session, be it resolved that council receive the verbal update regarding a recent court decision as information, and that council advises that the township has not appealed the recent court decision, and that council directs staff to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Okay, who would like to move that? Brian, and seconder? Jim? Okay. We discussed this in closed, so is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. And the second motion, please, Lindsay.
Sure, Mayor Woodbury. So for 5.2, motion coming out of closed session, be it resolved that council receive the verbal update regarding an economic development investment project as information.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Martin and Michael. And we discussed this as well in closed. So I'll go to the question. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, I'll also declare that passed by unanimous consent. So thank you. Next, we have the motion moved that we council recess the special meeting at 10:37 and move into committee of the whole to allow for fuller discussion regarding the 2022 budget. I need a mover and seconder for that. Barbara? And Brian, any discussion on the budget? On this motion, I should say. Okay, seeing none, anyone opposed? And that is carried as well. And next, we need a motion to appoint the chair. Brian? No, you're on mute, doesn't count.
Sorry about that. I will move that we appoint Mayor Woodbury to chair the committee of the whole session.
Judging from the smile on Michael's face, I think he's probably going to second that. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, anyone opposed? And that is carried. So then we'll go right into report of municipal officers. And the motion would be that committee of the whole receive the staff report and budget as information, and that we recommend that council receive the staff report as information. I need a mover and seconder, and then we'll turn this over to Liam. Barbara and Martin. Okay, Liam. Turn this over to you.
Okay, so I'll start at the high level. So the overall impact each year has not changed since the previous version presented. So we are still have the draft 2022 capital 10-year forecast, has a requirement for taxation of 2.4 million, an increase of 220,000 from the 2021 level, which is resulted in roughly a 1.7% increase in the blended tax rate, as well as the special projects, an additional 868,930, which would have another 0.5% increase in the blended tax rate. So I thought, since we sort of did the very high level at the last meeting, we could just sort of go into the detail and go in order of the sheets, and if council has any questions of the department heads, if that's all right.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So Lindsay, do you want me to share my screen since yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I believe you're a presenter.
Well, I saw that pop up an hour and a half ago, but I didn't want to share my screen while I was still working during closed. So there we go. Okay. So I guess we'll just start at administration as the first one. So the major project in the next 10 years is the administration building in 2024. So I guess if there's any questions for staff on that.
Nope, not seeing anything.
Okay. I just need to modify my screen because now I can't see people. Okay. Somehow.
Mayor Woodbury?
Go ahead, Barb. Oh, and then Brian.
So due to the size visual on the screen, which document is this in your attachment? Liam, is it attachment 1, 2, or 3?
This is attachment 1, page, so administration is page, or to page 6 of 45 of attachment
Awesome.
1.
Page 6. Thank you very much.
That's where the 2022 begins.
Brian, did you have anything? Oh, you muted
Yes,
yourself.
I did actually. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. I was, so the administration building, I see is budgeted in there for $1 million. Perhaps is this a question for Dave or William to tell me what this project encompasses? Where, when, how?
So I think I'll let Dave start on that one.
Okay. So again, that is just a placeholder. The when is really unknown, but I think it may not be one project. I mean, we've talked about the county property and securing it, putting a building up there for building department and Dundalk Works Garage. So really at this point in time, it's a placeholder that we need to consider because of growth. Expansion is ongoing over time, and we're doing it in iterations. But another council in 2 years may decide something different, or the council today may decide something different. But I think it's a placeholder that we need to acknowledge needs some level of investment over time to, I guess, get to a place where we decide what we actually need at that point in time that would be a long-term solution. Relocating council is kind of an iteration of that type of thinking.
Okay, Brian. Yep, go ahead.
So I guess just thinking about that a little more. Well, okay, it's a placeholder. I'm just wondering about the title of administration building. Would it be better with administration infrastructure? Tomato.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, thank you.
And to expand on that, I mean, there's a similar one. I mean, we've got that community facility, for whether that's part of the same discussion for administration building. What's the need for that larger capacity during the winter months that not be accommodated in Southgate for, in excess of 250 people. So again, that's a placeholder. That was something that was decided and put into a budget placeholder back in the previous DC study and in previous council. So those are a couple of things that, if council wants to decide to change or alter the names, that's a discussion.
Go ahead, Brian.
So just to follow it up a little bit more and think that through, that's fine such as it is. In next year's budget, 22, is there any capital infrastructure money there for the town hall if the proposed deal comes to fruition? Because I think we need some kind of, if it's nothing more than a placeholder, even as we're calling them, I think we need to be realistic that if that project does come to fruition sometime in 22, then we need to have some idea where it's going to be funded from.
Yep. So
As it's presently proposed.
right. So our commitments to, in actual fact, I'm working on an agreement, draft agreement that'll be coming to the next council meeting that may answer some of these questions, but there's highly likely that there's very little investment by the township going to be required in 2022 in relation to the monthly contribution, maybe as early as if things really started happening, as early as July of 2022. More apt that there'd be a 6-month construction window and it'd likely require being into 2023. So plus our commitment wouldn't be a lot of money. That kind of a commitment could be extracted out of a community facility type of funding. And that would just require council's support. There's nothing about capital investment in the old town hall that we are committing to or agreeing to at this point in time. It's capital projects that would be taken on by either Wellington Capital or Team Town Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Barbara?
So through you, in the original RFP proposal, it was suggested that there would be a capital contribution of somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. That's still up for negotiation, obviously, but maybe we're talking operational budget instead of capital budget, because we don't, if this goes through, we don't actually own the building. Therefore, is it really, it's not our capital from a financial perspective. But I agree that whether it's the capital budget or the operating budget, perhaps there needs to be a commitment to funds, maybe in the economic development department budget. I guess the question is we've invested in renovating the space in Holstein for council chambers. We've invested in construction of the former council chambers, or where the council chambers is now, for the building department, and this administration building of $1 million projected for 2024. We have these placeholders for a multi-use facility, but we have no plan, I guess, there's no concrete plan for what that means. So to your point, Dave, you're saying there's the agreement you're now saying will not have a commitment toward capital improvements for the old town hall?
So what I'm suggesting in the agreement, and it'll be in its draft form, is that we see that the capital project work is done, and we would contribute a certain amount of money, and I'm suggesting $40,000 a year for 3 years to cover that one-time payment, so that we see the capital work is done. But you'll see this in the report when it comes, so that we can put it in more affordable bites, and that we see that those accomplishments are made before we make an investment.
So if I may, Mayor Woodbury, and I'm just trying to move my screen so I can see it. If we have an administration building of $1 million planned for in 2024, is that what the contribution to infrastructure reserve in 2022 and 23 is for? I've got to move my screen back and forth. So Liam, can you please explain whether or not there's any contribution? Are we contributing toward that $1 million yet?
Go ahead, Liam.
So yes, you'll see on the on 2024, you'll see $182,000 coming out of reserves. So if you scroll to the right, you'll see in 2022, 50,250 going into reserve, and in 2023, 61,800 going in.
Right.
Michael?
If anybody's got the hard copy, you can go to page 49. You can see those ones that are doing. But my main question is, so we got $1 million there, and then we got $3 million in the rec for this multi-use that, I mean, no one in council right in today's day says we need this building, but yet we're still putting $4 million away for this building in 3 years. I'm just kind of wondering, at what point are we going to say, yeah, we're going to go for this kind of a building? But I mean, council of today says we don't need this building. We have enough buildings now.
Okay. Liam, go ahead.
I just want to comment. I do believe that multi-use facility is part of the strategic plan that I believe it's this council approved earlier in their term. So that's why it's sort of put in the 10-year as a placeholder, because it's a match to the strategic plan.
And I'll add to that, it's also in the development charges DC bylaw. We're collecting money for it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any. Go ahead, Liam. You can carry on.
Okay, so further questions on administration. Now that my screen is so big, small for you, but big for me. Public health. We had money going into the reserve to construct a medical clinic prior years, so now that's been removed, and we have the dollars going towards the Lions Medical Center conversion and Erskine Center conversions in 23 and 2024.
Okay, not seeing any. Oh, there's Barb.
Conversion to what?
Dave?
I'll defer to Dave.
Sorry,
Yep.
Can you repeat that?
The conversion, the money we put away for the conversion of the Lions Medical Center and the Erskine Center.
Yeah, so that would be money that really wouldn't be required in the long term. It's maybe unsure what would be in the short term, like when we look to the Lions Center and the medical center, will those buildings get turned over to us and we will put that into programming, or we'll convert it to affordable housing or accommodate apartment housing? You know, those are decisions yet to be made.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a follow-up.
Yep.
So what this is suggesting is that there's a possibility that we will end up with 2 more facilities to manage.
Not necessary to manage, but to make a decision on their future use. Whether, because we've already had discussions, and the Lions Club know this, with Grey County Housing and Southeast Grey Support Services about conversions for the medical center as an option.
Okay. First, I think that's the first we've heard of it, isn't it, Dave?
Well, I'm pretty sure we've talked about the medical center before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Liam.
So the next section is council in which case we have the every 4 years replacement of laptops.
Okay. Barb?
So is this not where we normally also have a contribution to reserves for the next election? I see contribution for laptops basically every 4 years, or every year, so that they can be replaced every election cycle. But I don't see an election line. Is that in a different, sorry if I missed it, in administration?
That's in the special project budget. So I'm just
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay,
control bars
thank you.
over that tab.
Okay.
There we go. Just okay, so there's on screen the council special projects tab, where we're contributing $10,000 a year into the election reserve, and then basically spending $40,000 every 4 years for the election.
Thanks, Liam.
Okay. And the next area is building. So the ordered a vehicle in 2021 being delivered in 2022, as well as the future replacements of the ETV car and the 4x4. Any questions on that, or shall I continue?
Looks like it continue.
All right. Industrial land has the Highway 10 bypass road construction, phase 1 in 2022 and phase 2 in 2023, as well as the sewage pumping station in 2023.
Brian?
Thank you, John. Liam, given the discussions, preliminary discussions around the annexation of some property on the east side of Highway 10, or what I'll call the east side, is this funding going to be sufficient to deal with that issue if it comes to fruition?
The annexation of land is not reflected in the capital special projects budget at this point. I have not been part of any discussions as to the financial implications of that yet.
Right. Well, I'm thinking of the servicing of that potential annexed land. I know the funding for the actual process of annexation would be in a different budget likely, but I'm just wondering.
Last I heard, it was the developer that would pay for the servicing of that land across the highway, but I believe Dave has more information on that than I.
Dave, do you want to go ahead with that?
Just in relation to, there was two things there. So budget for the annexation, really all we would be involved in is legal costs and staff time to actually put an agreement in place. Once that agreement was in place, then it's a matter of sorting out, the tax collection of taxation in the future and sharing that with the annexation partners. When it comes to servicing, all the servicing costs would be borne by the developer to cross Highway 10 and to install the road servicing to get to his property, just like in Flato projects or White Rose projects. If they have to come across another external roadway to the project, they pay for that servicing. And furthermore, there would be no shared costs of that offsite servicing because we have no properties that could be serviced by this external servicing.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
But that said, are there implications for this particular project that I'm seeing here, the access road sewage pumping station? Are there implications for that from what happens, shall we say, upstream if the project of annexation goes ahead? That's what I'm trying to get at here. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well.
Yeah, so those are things that we are looking at, and those kind of things would, those kind of costs. So what you're referring to, I think, is things flow downhill, of course, and downstream, where we're going to take that material or that servicing output in the present Southgate area, down those pipes, down to that pumping station or the sewage treatment plant. Development charges would pay for that type of project. So we would insert a future pumping station that would be servicing, let's call it the Melanchthon properties as we know it now. That kind of development requirement would be reflected in a DC study and would be paid for by that future development component.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any others, so go ahead, Liam.
Okay, so next
Well,
we have economic.
While Liam's looking that up, I do want to reflect that there could be a very small component. Like, let's say the pipe goes down past some people on Highway 10 that already exist. If there's future benefit to an existing property that is not on servicing and they are connected, there could be a very small amount that would be taken on by existing taxpayers, but most likely that would be assessed to that property that connects. So, I mean, there could be a very small amount, but 98% of the project would be paid by future development. I just want to qualify that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next section is economic development. So we have downtown parking east side of Proton and Hamlet Blades in 2022, downtown parking east side of Proton and Medical Center and Hamlet Blades in 2023, and downtown parking east side of Proton and Medical Center in 2024.
Okay, I don't see any questions or comments on that.
My apologies, I read 2023 as if it was there, but obviously the description is there and it should have been deleted. My apologies on that. There's no dollars, but there's a description.
Barbara?
Mayor, no, thank you. Through you to Liam, given the construction price increase and, you know, the rising cost of everything these days, is this a realistic number for parking lot paving development? Or are we going to find ourselves going out to tender only to find ourselves under budget? I mean, over whatever, the pricing coming in significantly higher.
I believe Dave and Terry gave us these numbers, so I'm not sure how they developed them.
Yeah. Dave, do you have any comment? You've taken a page out of Martin's book and you're talking on mute.
Yes.
There you go.
It was a heck of a speech. But anyway, those are the numbers we have for to complete the project. We think now. What will they come in at the time of tendering? Who knows? You know, it may well be that there may be some, we hope, regression in some of this pricing when the supply chain gets back to normal. But who knows right now? But it's a pretty accurate number, we believe.
Through you.
Go ahead.
Wasn't the Proton Street parking lot paving earmarked through some funding that we reassigned to something else? And so the money that, and I think we were in around, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Jim Ellis, there were $40,000 or $50,000 from the net proceeds of the land exchange and some red funding, maybe downtown revitalization funding, that because we couldn't do the parking lot that it was earmarked for, we reassigned that money for lamp posts, and that money was supposed to continue to be in reserves for the parking lot pavement. And at that time, I think we were estimating $40,000 or $60,000. I'm just going by memory, and my memory's not always that reliable these days.
Dave, do you have any?
Maybe Jim wants to, but I mean, I think what happened there was because of the timing, we reallocated some of that paving money that needed to get spent in a certain timeline to downtown sidewalks on Main Street as part of that Main Street East project. But I'll stand corrected on that with Jim because he led that project. If he could comment further.
Morning, Jim.
Morning, good people. Yeah, this has been a delay in this project. The revenue from that sale of the previously owned parking lot was supposed to be towards the improvements of the new parking lot. As far as I know, that's still there or should have been there. We have spent money on it. We've done some work and anticipating to hopefully get the lighting in there yet this year. We've given the go-ahead to a contractor. Obviously paving will be waiting, but this is separate from this parking lot that we're discussing in this budget here.
Thank you. Just to follow up, yeah, if I recall, there was some comments from the public about, I mean, we earmarked some downtown revitalization money that we got, and I can't remember which fund it was, to the parking lot, so that would free up the funds for the downtown upgrades. And then it ended up the parking lot didn't get done because of delays in construction. I mean, it was just, you know, a domino effect, obviously. As long as the funds that we earmarked for the parking lot eventually are still there to come back to that upgrade.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Dave there was some correct answers there about where that red or downtown funding went. We did put that into new street lamps for the Main Street East construction. So that took that funding away from the Proton parking lot. But the sale of the land exchange should still be earmarked for this. We have dabbled into it, that's for sure, though.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we can go ahead, Liam.
So the next section is 5, in which case current item is the rescue pumper tanker that was ordered in 2020, was ordered in 2020, and for delivery in 2022. So, and I believe that's supposed to arrive in January. So that's a large item in that year. And then there's some large equipment apparatus purchases in the next few years. So the impact on taxation to fund this department without using debt for replacement capital is quite significant.
Okay, any questions or comments? Yeah, apparently the truck's coming along really well and should be definitely delivered in January, I would think. Okay, not seeing any. Go ahead, Liam.
So the next section is recreation. I'll just remind council that the last previous version did not have the 2022 project for the pool building grant or the ball lighting grant due to an error on my part. So this budget now has it in there, being funded from reserves and grants.
Okay, any questions or comments? Barbara?
So I guess my question is sale of assets for Old Town Hall in 2021, $100,000. The RFP had $1,000.
So, but yeah, talking about 2021, we budgeted to sell it for 100,000, but we're not projecting to sell it in 2021.
Right, and we have $1,000 indicated. We don't have anything indicated in 2022 for funds.
No, I believe once the council makes a decision on the future of the building, that's when the numbers were going to be loaded.
Thank you.
Michael? Oh, you're on mute.
Ballpark, they're gonna put lighting in. Hello?
Sorry, we only got part of that question.
I just see ballpark lighting, 250,000. Wondering which ballpark.
Kevin on?
Yes, I don't see Kevin on in the meeting.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin couldn't attend.
Okay.
I believe that the plan there is kind of a vision to not relocate, but install lights in the Pat Dales Park out at the fairgrounds, and with an eventual transition of the park and Memorial Park not having baseball, but something else going forward. Repurposing that sports field at the Memorial Park, just because of the safety issues with the ballpark versus the playground and so on, and more people using the park. That's Kevin's vision for it, and that's why he's put it in.
Okay. Brian, did
And
you
we'll
have
have that
something?
description updated in the next version to say that it's the Pat Dales Park.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll let
I
Mike
was
do a
just-
follow.
I was just going to confirm that. We just had a rec meeting the other day, and that's the longer term plan is to transition the lights in the ballpark out of Memorial Park into Pat Dales.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we're gonna lose a ball diamond, which on the weekends for the slow pitch mixed league or whatever, like they're using both diamonds. Now we'd go down to one diamond, so we're actually going down a diamond.
I'm not sure that's what was planned. I mean, there may be a plan for a second park in another, space in the subdivisions, or do we look at, more use of the Hopeful Park and the Holstein Park because they're not being used as heavily as they should be for the quality of sports field they are.
Mm-hmm. And the other part that Kevin had talked to me about at one point, and these were just thoughts, is there a second diamond put in where Pat Dales is, and maybe soccer fields or something over that way, so that we have more of a sports area, that if they have tournaments, they're all in a similar place. But that wasn't the plan. That was just kicking ideas around while we were standing in a parking lot. So yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, Liam.
Okay, so after recreation, we have the library. So standard annual collections for replacement and growth. And large is putting money away into reserves for a future expansion of some kind in 2028.
Okay. Questions or comments? Not seeing any.
I'll move on then. Now we're into roads. So Jim's on the call. I'll defer to him if he wants to highlight any specific projects or obviously take the questions.
Okay. Jim, if you're available, is there anything you wanted to highlight for the budget?
Just in the last budget meeting, we gave a report indicating how we base some of our decisions for this upcoming budget, and knowing that a bunch of hardtop roads are in bad shape and need some sort of fix sooner or later. So that is the strategy with surface treatment, single surface treatment applications, and using our asphalt hot box to pad some of the deficiencies, and that's what we're bringing forward to council. That was tagged in with that report, as well as in 2022 there are no bridge projects forecasted to accomplish the roads piece that needs to be addressed.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Brian.
Thank you, John. I'm just wondering, the Victoria Street reconstruction. I know it's been talked about, the road itself needs to be rebuilt. Is there money in this budget for all the infrastructure underneath as well at the same time, or is it in relatively good shape?
Go ahead, Jim.
That is our ICIP application right now that was submitted last fall. We won't know till the spring, so this is a bit of a placeholder. If we do get to go ahead, the water main is in tough shape. That's what we're basing the funding application on, and that's roughly about 5 million that we've proceeded for water main through grant match. But there are components of the road piece and the sidewalks that will have to be through the roads. And you'll see that more in 2023, because it will be a late start if we get the funding. And as well, we won't have time to really get at this too hard. We do have a commitment with that funding to have a start though in 2022. So that, again, in both the water and wastewater budgets as well, the bulk of that, if the funding comes through, is in 2023.
Go ahead.
If I might interject, Jim, if a clarification, if I might. I believe there wasn't any dollars in the wastewater budget. It was just the water and the roads budget for that road. Am I correct?
Go ahead, Jim.
No, it's the investigation work we're doing right now will involve the camera work of the sewer. We believe the sewer is generally in good condition, as was Main Street East, but we'll have to truth that. There is a piece in this component for wastewater for the extension of the west end, because it ends about half, I'm going to say halfway, but it's probably a little bit of a difference in that, between Macaulay and Ida. That would place water main in to this to head out to Ida Street for the future connection of a pump maybe type system to come down from Ida North that would connect into Main Street, or Ida Street, I should say. And as well, Main Street West has the same component for the 2026 if the county goes ahead with their budget works there.
Okay, thanks.
But not very as hefty a price tag as the other components.
Okay. Brian.
So I guess, thank you, John. So I guess my concern then is if we don't get the funding, I mean, this road needs some work. Anybody that drives over it can tell that. I guess I'm asking what's the plan if we don't get the funding for the infrastructure underneath? I hope we're not going to rebuild the road, and then in 2 or 3 years, if we do get the funding, tear it all up again. I hope not. So I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but I would like to know what your thoughts are on that, Jim.
Okay, Jim, plan B.
Yeah, so with all this design and pre-engineering we're doing, we're looking, and a lot of this road section too, from one end to the other needs stormwater added to it. And that's a big reason too, that the road section is taking a hit on it, is that we would do it in kind of sections. Start at one end and go from a block to a block in a year or something, or a 2-year project. So we would maybe start at Ida Street and go to Macaulay, or vice versa, Russell to Alice or whatever, and do it in blocks to cut it down to a more economical way that we could do things if we don't get the funding.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Michael.
I see there another new sidewalk plow for Dundalk, 180,000. And then you're going to transfer, we just bought one, now we're going to buy another one, and then transfer the used one out to Holstein.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that is correct. Once we assume these subdivisions, and we're getting constant calls about not servicing sidewalks in the unassumed now, but that is going to take on quite a piece for us to add on to servicing. The first one is up in near that time for some renewal. So the plan was to, yes, take it to Holstein and have proper sidewalk maintenance for there, and a newer machine to service these oncoming developments that pretty soon we're going to have to get into.
Thank you.
As I said, like I went by Holstein this morning and the sidewalks look every bit as good as Dundalk, and I'm kind of wondering, it's cheaper for us to buy a different vehicle for out there than spending 180,000 shipping one out there.
Okay.
For one sidewalk out there, it's one long sidewalk. That's it.
Okay. Brian.
Thank you, John. Moving along and looking under equipment in 2022, I see there's 3 pickups on the budget there. My understanding was that we already bought one just very recently. I thought that was going to be one of those 3. So am I correct in thinking that we don't need the 3? There's just the 2 now?
Okay, Jim.
I believe that's the way that's been structured through Liam.
Right. So 60,000 can come out of there. And if I might, I wouldn't want it to be said that Councillor or Deputy Mayor Millen didn't comment on the cost of a 1-ton pickup or a 1-ton truck. I see it's in at 90,000. If we're worried about a snowplow for the Holstein sidewalks, I think we should have some concerns about a $90,000 truck that's never going to leave Dundalk. That's all I'm going to say on that. I've been through and down this road last year, but anyway, there we go.
Barbara.
Through you to Jim, with regard to vehicles in Dundalk, the sidewalk plow though, if we're assuming new roads, it's development related, would that not come out of development charges?
There is
Okay,
a component that was implemented through DC, I believe, for the new single axle truck as well that was purchased this year that we won't receive till next year. And as well as the sidewalk machine should have had a component.
So maybe Liam, I maybe I'm reading the schedule wrong, but I don't see where it's coming out of DC reserves or what. I mean, I can imagine it wouldn't all be covered because we're going to use that elsewhere as well, but for the benefit of the community. But
Yeah, right now, none of it's coming out of DC in the presentation, so I'll have to go to the DC study and see if Jim has it loaded in there.
Okay.
thank you.
Jason.
What does it cost for us to get the snow, the sidewalks done in Holstein, Jim? And then my second question was the loader brusher head. Are we buying another one, or is that kind of?
Okay. Jim?
I'm chasing the mouse. I can't find it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I don't have a total breakdown, but only recently in the last year to 2 years have we started really doing Holstein sidewalk maintenance. And again, with a combination of some equipment. Previously, that was done by a contractor that we had in Holstein, but he couldn't meet some of our maintenance requirements. So we knew that we needed to step up and do our due diligence and be able to do them more efficiently and effectively according to the minimum maintenance standards. The loader brusher head is something we're demoing right now, and it goes actually on the loader itself, on the front of it, and it's a boom mower type attachment that again we're trying it out right now. We were supposed to have had it last week. I haven't heard that it's been operational, but it was supposed to have come in last week for demo for the unit, and that was loaded in as well for brush maintenance.
Okay. No, yeah, I know. I've seen it working. It looks like a good machine, actually. I was thinking it was the same brushers on the other one. I wasn't sure.
No, this is a different machine.
Yeah, no, I seen Doug working with it. I was impressed with it, actually. Yep.
Good. Thank you. Martin.
Yeah, I talked to Lindsay before the meeting started. I have to leave at, well, 2 minutes from now. So I'm just going to remove myself, and I'll keep in touch with all the minutes that come in from Lindsay.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Martin. And
No
you know, give yourself a pat in the back and write this down. You did not speak while muted once this time. So
Well,
congratulations.
it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but I guess I am learning. So anyway, God bless everyone. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Martin. And I hear you.
Mayor Woodbury, just while we're on it,
Yes.
can we just have a motion to go past noon?
Yep. I need a mover and a seconder. Go past noon. Jason will move it and Barb will second it. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, we can carry on then. Was there any other questions about the this part of the budget?
I might want to expand on the sidewalk plow. Might just check the DC bylaw had one sidewalk plow, but I haven't noted that we bought one in 2020 that was due to growth. So just got to check that. If we actually bought it.
Jim?
Yeah, so yeah, that'd be correct. There was one in DC. This one's actually a replacement for the unit that we've had now for several years, so that's why. maybe a bit of confusion. There was a DC in for one, but this is a replacement unit.
So really, this is a replacement unit. However, we're expanding the fleet by not selling the old one and just moving it to Holstein.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that. Any other questions or comments on this? Brian.
Thank you, John. I'm just wondering, our discussion the other day around climate change initiatives, and probably one of the easiest wins, whether it's significant or not, is around the burning of fossil fuels, and which brings me to the notion of the new pickup trucks. And as small a gain as it might be, do we need full-size pickup trucks? Would like the Ford Ranger or the GM Canyon, that style of pickup, would that get the job done? Smaller motors, smaller or better fuel economy. I've had this conversation at the county with the Works Department as well. Without putting too much of a point on it, the back of some of these pickup trucks don't get marked up real much. So I'm wondering, do we need full-size pickup trucks?
Go ahead, Jim.
The only place that it really affects is we end up repurposing some of these trucks to different departments. So the recreation department is pulling a trailer with their tractor around the ball diamonds. I don't think you can maybe effectively do that with a compact size pickup truck. Fire department took a truck from us this year. They wanted a 4x4. It's a 2-wheel drive. They're pulling a trailer with it as well. So that's what happens when kind of the public works side of end of life use of these trucks, they end up doing something else, and generally pulling something seems to be the theme.
Well, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, absolutely.
I understand the thinking there, but I'm wondering at, looking longer term, rather than buying a pickup truck, and that's the example we're talking about now, rather than buying a pickup truck that is overbuilt for the purpose of most of its life, just to satisfy a need in the last, say, quarter or third of its life, would we not be better to buy a vehicle that is purpose driven and wear it out in that purpose? So if, for instance, the fire department needs a 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive pickup, buy them that and let them use it. And yet the works department, if all they need is a smaller, what used to be a full size, but it's not now, let them get that pickup truck and use it until it's ready to drop dead in that role.
Go ahead, Jim.
Again, we occasionally pull trailers with these pickups. You got to remember these pickups are usually doing patrol and definitely need 4-wheel drive. They're driving in bad weather conditions, getting the plows out there, as well as that these trucks do carry men when we're allowed to. Now, COVID hasn't allowed us to, but in the past, when we bought just a single cab or the half cabs, we couldn't put very many work crew in there. But when going to a construction site, back when we were allowed to travel with more, we were packing the truck with, guys that could fit in these trucks. And in the smaller trucks, you can't put more people into. But that's part of the reason we need a few more trucks right now, is because of our COVID restrictions.
You look like you got
today.
more, Brian.
No, I'm done for
Good.
today. I'm getting nowhere, so that's fine. Thank you.
Any other comments? Michael.
Well, I really don't think we should be buying pickup trucks on COVID restrictions. Hopefully this is going to be over with sooner than later. And to have a pickup truck just for COVID restrictions, that we're driving 2 now trucks somewhere to do a job that 1 truck could have done. We're talking about saving fuel and everything. I think we need to be rethinking this before we start buying more trucks.
Okay, Jim?
One of these, well, not necessarily the new truck, but one of the trucks would be repurposed to the waste department. They had previously a pickup truck, and it was repurposed more so with the lead hand change to Public Works. But now that the team leader's in place there, they're driving their own vehicle. They could be doing more for us about doing cart maintenance and doing other things that we hope to be doing with them having a pickup truck in their availability to use to get some of the other work done that we have to do around the township.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. You can carry on, Liam.
Okay, so after roads, which my computer seems to have slowed down right now. Okay, so in solid waste, we have some roll-off containers, monitoring 2 new monitoring wells, and some carts. And then main large items being the collection truck in 2023, and I believe this 1 2 year after that.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Jim?
In the future, when we negotiate with our blue box transition, the recycling piece of things, there should be a component coming to us from that producer side for the recycling that would contribute to the truck and some of that function. But until those negotiations happen here in the future, it's on our dime right now, but there should be a component with blue box transition for contribution.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any. Oh, Brian?
Thank you, John. I'm looking at both, I believe it's, 2023 and 2026 replacement of collection trucks at 360 or $340,000 to $360,000 to replace those vehicles. Have we done or when was the most recent review of what this entire system is actually costing us per household? And is there an opportunity to go a different direction, i.e. private contractor?
Go ahead, Jim.
We did do a report in response to some of the county's report information. I believe it was pretty near the end of last year. Dave and I dove into some of that and came up with some household numbers. I could be wrong. It could have been 2019, but I think it was the end of last year we presented something along that lines.
Okay, I'll see if I can find that report and read it again. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Not seeing any. So you can carry on.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, go ahead, Barb.
I'm just wondering if it might be easier for Lindsay to find that study or report, because I'd be interested in it as well, just as a refresher. Maybe all of council could be just sent a link to the report for ease of reference.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll just get Jim to help me locate it.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Go ahead, Jim.
I believe it was presented at the December 16th, 2020 council meeting, Southgate Waste Resources Diversion Management Cost Comparison Report.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions there, so we can carry on.
Okay, so the next area is cemetery. There's a tractor purchased in 2023, of which we're putting $5,000 away a year into a reserve to fund.
Not seeing any questions or comments on that.
Okay.
Yep.
John?
Yep, go ahead.
Just a question to go back to cemetery, and I've forgotten it, and I was looking while you were moving on, so I apologize for backing up a little bit, but I see the third columbarium is budgeted for 2028. That's going to be 6 years away. Given the uptake and the trends in the burial industry, if I can call it that, I wouldn't be surprised if that third columbarium might be needed prior to 2028. I'd like to hear some staff comments on that thought, please.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll have to check a little bit further with Lindsay in the clerk's department, but our rationale before was we wait till closer to about half the sales are gone in the latest one, but I believe there's still space in the first one. Now, I know we are winding down, but then people have that choice whether they want this one or that one. And I think that's our theory, that when we get down to about a half of the space left in a columbarium, that we'll move in looking for the next one. So that can be a target that we'll be moving depending on those sales.
Okay,
very good. Thank you.
So Holly has taken over the administration. She can jump on if she wants, but when I was still doing it, there was probably about, I'm going to guess, around 10 compartments or niches still left in the first columbarium, and the second one was virtually empty, other than maybe one or two. I know she has sold maybe 3, maybe 4. If she's there, she can jump in this year, but there's still quite a bit of room in the new one and a little bit left in the original.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Nope, we can carry on.
Okay, so wastewater is the next section. So right now, the 10-year plan has the sewage treatment facility upgrades at $16 million in 2022. And I believe there's an RFP for exploring other alternatives.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, so we just wound up with the last few weeks here, the RFP for proposals for other technologies to assist with the lagoon and what could meet our targets that we've projected for the next 10 and 20 year period. And those are being assessed right now by Triton Engineering. I think we received 7 or 8 proposals. We hope to be in about the $2 to $5 million range for some technology that would work for us for that interim. But the reason we keep this big placeholder here is if the EA process, when we finally decide what we submit to winding down the EA process to the ministry, and they say, no, you've got to need a full plan. That's why this number's still in place here right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on that? Nothing like making 2 to 5 million sound cheap when you say it after 16 million. So, Michael.
So how much of that 16 million would we get DC charges for because the expansion is due to growth?
We will be carrying a component, and I'll see, don't know if Liam has that up in front of him.
Yeah, so that's why you'll see in 2022, of the $16 million, 1.6 is coming from reserves, and then the balance is debt. So essentially 90% of that project is being funded by DCs. It's just that the debt payments it's coming out of DCs in future years as we repay the debt.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we can carry on.
Okay, so in water, the largest project in 2022 is the construction of the water tower.
Okay. Questions on this? Jim.
Just to update council, we're in the final stages with our design submission to the ministry. They have replied here just recently and requested just a little bit of information, but coming back from them was that there was going to be a quick turnaround from their review to our next steps forward. So that is also winding down and getting ministry approval closer.
Good. I don't know what quick review means from one of the ministries, but it's good to hear that it's quick. Any questions or comments on that? Not seeing any. So we can move on from there.
So that's the end of the 10-year capital. So there's some special projects on the other side. I'll leave it up to council if we want to go over there or how we want to proceed from here.
Okay. Anyone, any questions on the special projects? Or did you want to go through them? Well, I don't see any questions on them, and I don't see anyone jumping up and down saying we should go through them. We did cover special projects. It's the last one too. Okay. And anything else, Liam?
Well, no, I guess that concludes the review of the 10-year detail. So the current presentation would require a 1.7% increase in the blended tax rate for capital and 0.5 for the special projects. So that, I guess, council's opinion on their comfort level with that impact, or they'd want to wait until it's integrated with the operating budget for the next meeting.
Okay, we're about to hear. Brian?
Thank you, John. When you say blended rate, William, are you talking about blended with the county or blended with the operating or all of the above?
Blended with the county and the education tax rates.
So what are we assuming the county's going to come in at? Or what are you assuming?
right now I'm using the 2021 blended tax rate impact of 130,758. We just got the preliminary assessment projection from MPAC, and hopefully before I publish for the report for December 8th, I will actually have the 2022 roll, so I could sort of get revised blended tax rate impact based on our information. However, I would have to make an assumption on the county and the school board, which I haven't got that far yet.
But if I might, you must have made an assumption because you're saying your blended rate could be 1.7, I think you said.
Right now, my assumption is that whatever happened in 2021 is exactly what's going to happen for 2022, as far as the tax rate is concerned.
Yep. Okay.
And I know that's not correct, but I don't have any other current information at this point.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. That's all I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'm not seeing any. My point of view is I think we've got to look at the whole package and see what happens there. I think we all know with how cost of, well, pretty well everything, especially materials and everything else, has gone way up this year, that this isn't going to be a great year for the budget, and all of this stuff still needs to be done. So any other comments or opinions? Brian?
Thank you, John. I guess to Liam's question, how comfortable is council with the 1.7? I guess I'm very comfortable with that. I dare say we may end up higher than that, but I think we're definitely in the ballpark there in terms of where we need to be. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Liam?
Just want to make sure that everyone's clear. That 1.7, that's just on the impact of the capital, not the other impacts of the operating. So that's not the total blended tax rate I'm talking about. I'm talking about just the impact of capital.
Yep. No, I understand. Thank you.
Yep. Barb?
Through you to Liam, but that 1.7 doesn't include special projects.
No, that's another 0.5.
Your estimate, right?
Another 0.5.
So it's another 0.5. So we're looking at capital and special projects of 2.2.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then we can carry on.
So that essentially completes the capital budget discussion that was planned for today.
Okay. And then we can, we have the motion to receive this as information, and that we recommend that council receive the budget as information. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, anyone opposed?
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Do we not make that motion when we come out of committee of the whole?
No,
or does
this is a
both.
motion that we make as committee of the whole, and then we make a motion from council.
When we come out. Oh, thank you. I'm not opposed.
Okay. Then I'll declare that passed. And next, we have a motion that committee of the whole receive the staff report finance 2021-038, the cost of living index as information, and that committee of the whole recommend that council approve the application of cost of living index of, and will determine the percentage, effective January 1st, 2022, to the affected agreement fees and reimbursements, and effective January 8th to wage salary grid, and that we recommend the council approve that this the wages grid option that we pick as presented in attachment 1. Do I have a mover and seconder to that? And do we want to put in the percentage after we get the discussion going?
I'll move it pending.
You'll move it?
I'll move it as blank until we determine the options.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Is there a seconder? Oh, Jason? Okay. Brian?
Just, I'm not sure, like, what we need to have a number in there to have the discussion, whether it needs to be lower, higher, 0, whatever. Just to leave it blank, what are we discussing? We can't.
Okay.
We can't say yay or nay if there's no number there.
Yep.
So we need a number of some description to start.
Okay. Barb,
Mayor,
you moved
Mayor
it?
Wood.
Yep.
I mean, can it not be a friendly amendment after the discussion of the report? I mean, Liam's providing us with options, and then we have it on the table to discuss the report with a friendly amendment as to, you know, what the flavor council is thinking.
I've got a great idea. Lindsay?
Yes, that's what we've done that in the past. I get where Brian's coming from. We need a starting point to discuss, but the motion is on the table to discuss, so we don't have to put something in right now. It can be a friendly amendment.
I will graciously defer to the clerk's department.
I think that's usually pretty prudent. Okay, thanks, Lindsay. So, Liam, I'll let you show us this, and then we'll talk.
So policy states that the wage grid would be adjusted by the cost of living annually, subject to council approval. So in prior years, we've brought that cost of living to council in a report with the effect on the wage grid. And whereas this year, the impact is 4.9%, which was a lot more, very significant compared to prior years. So I felt that we should, rather than come back with the version of the other options at a later meeting, I just brought them all other options to you at this meeting. So we could basically decide now which one it is, if one of these 5 or another one, and then I'd have to come back. So I just did where is it here? Just a quick analysis of the cost of living. It's not in the report. I just did this quickly this morning. Don't know how well you can see it on your screens. I'll talk to it. So just the sort of historical analysis of the cost of livings that have been applied since 2017. So in 2017, it was 1.3, 2018 was 2.5, and then 2019 was 1.7. So I call all those pre-COVID impacts. And then in 2020, the cost of living increase approved was 0.7. And in that, it was as of October 2020, which is COVID impacted because the prices dropped significantly at the start of the pandemic. However, towards the end of the pandemic, they've swung greatly the other way. That's why this year is 4.9. So I just did a comparison of, if I took the 2 pandemic years, the 4.9 and 0.7, that's an average increase of 2.8 a year, and then compared to an average of the previous 3 years, which is sort of pre-pandemic years, the average of those 3 years was 1.8. So and again, I'm just throwing this analysis out there for council's consideration. So if we only, in my opinion, the 0.7 was sort of artificially low in the sense that it reflected low pricing due to the pandemic. So if the 4.9 is now, I don't know if it's, unfortunately, I don't think it's artificially high. It's just high due to the pandemic at 4.9. So if we take that 1.8% average over the last 3 years, so if we had applied that for 2020 and 2021, then we would have had a 3.7% increase. Last year we got a 0.7, which means that this year we would have to give a 3% increase to remain at the average pre-pandemic annual increase. And I will now ask questions if that made any sense to council, or if you'd like me to explain that again.
Let's see. Anyone have any questions about that? Brian?
Not a question specifically, but I do want to thank Liam for his calculations there. That very much puts it into perspective, and I do appreciate that, because I was struggling a bit with the 4.9 as to, you know, how is the pandemic. Clearly, it has been impacted by the pandemic, but to what extent? And you know, I mean, staff, I think we could all agree, staff have had, or everyone has had, a difficult almost 2 years dealing with all of this pandemic stuff. So I certainly agree that we need to be cognizant of that. And, you know, maybe we should have had, in hindsight, maybe a calculation like this last year on the 0.7 would have resulted in a different number on the pay grid as well. But I appreciate again Liam's calculations, and I think the 3% is absolutely fair, and I'm willing to support that. But I'll wait until I hear from my colleagues on what we want to do with an amendment to put a number in the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Anyone else? Jason?
Yeah, no, sorry, I couldn't get my mute off. Yeah, no, I was kind of thinking the 2% would be fair, kind of in the middle of the road, but 2 or 3 is pretty close. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Anyone else? Barbara?
Through you, Liam, whether it's 2, whether it's 3, whatever the number, how does this, when you combine this with, you know, the operating budget that we don't have yet and the capital and special projects 2.2, if we're looking at let's say a 3% at 0.9 blended plus 2.2, does it factor across the board? You know, like, do we just add it because it doesn't affect everything across the board? So what are you seeing us landing when we talk about COLA increases for wages and our fees and charges and the capital and special projects? And then, you know, we have to add that to the operating budget. Well, that's part of the operating budget anyway.
Yeah, go ahead, Liam.
If I may paraphrase, I believe I'm being asked what the total operating impact of everything will be, which I don't know yet because the department has just submitted their initial submissions and I haven't had a chance to go through them yet. So that's why I've shown the impact of what capital is and the impact here of what, if you approve, say 3%, it's a 0.9% blended tax rate impact. Right. So I do acknowledge there are still other impacts here, like there's the insurance and fuel and other cost pressures and merit increases that are also pressures on the overall operating budget in addition to this. So I can't tell you what the total impact is yet until I prepare that report for the 8th.
Thank you. And I guess my other question is, it's been some time since we, if I recall, the canine control agreement, maybe this is a question for Dave, when does that come due for renewal? Or is it just renewing annually with a cost of living?
Muted.
And you're muted. Taking over for Martin.
I'd have to check that specifically, but It is on a contract basis right now, not year to year.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Michael?
This is to Liam. So this increase doesn't, if we bump someone up a pay band, this doesn't include that either, right? So if they go up a pay band, this number that we're seeing could be higher than if, say, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people go up a pay band too. That number will be higher than 2% if we went with 2% instead of 3, right?
I believe you mean a step increase within their existing pay band. So yes, but the answer to that question is yes, it is an addition to this impact. This is just cost of living. Merit increases would be an additional cost.
Okay. Any other questions? Barbara?
So to Michael's question, this, whatever the percent that COLA that we apply would also apply to the pay grid, so that, or does the pay grid stay constant?
So approval of this cost of living affects the pay grid. And then the staff or departments are going through performance reviews right now. And then the managers are recommending that a staff member get cost of living or a step increase. So by adjusting the grid, determines the cost impact of that. So in coming up by 0.9%, again, because we don't have that all performance reviews in yet. So 0.9% is if everybody got just cost of the living, this would be the impact.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
Just to answer Barb's question about canine control, I pulled the agreement and it ends the December 31st, 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Jason?
Going back to Liam's comment, so I'm not saying they will, but if an employee gets a bad review, do they still get bumped up? And circling back to, I don't know, I kind of like the 2%. I've already stated that. You know, the way this inflation's going and stuff, a lot of, it's not against employees, but a lot of people aren't getting a COLA every year. So I think the 2% to me is pretty fair. And no, I just wondered that on the performance review, if they're not doing a good job, do they still get a raise? How does that work?
I don't know if Liam or Dave will answer that.
Yeah, so if there's a performance review that is below standard, they would not get a cost of living or a merit increase if they were eligible for both.
Okay. Barbara?
You would, Dave, I mean, obviously, you know better than I, but I thought cost of living goes across the board. It's whether they get a merit or bump in their step increases as to whether or not that's based. That solely is based on a meets or exceeds expectations.
Yeah, so again, to explain it further, if there is not a positive performance, they will not get any increase. So if, let's say they're at job rate, step 6, you have to withhold pay increases if there's not a performance, if there's a performance issue, because if you provide a pay increase, you're basically resetting the concerns of performance to say that person is doing an okay job. So we withhold all pay increases. So if someone gets a negative performance review in 2020, or sorry, in 2021, they would not get an increase on January 1st, 2022 until such time as a performance improvement plan was completed. That might be 30, 60, 90 days, and that performance was returned to normal job performance based on the department head's evaluation.
Thank you.
Did we lose the chair?
It
Brian,
seems
go
like
ahead
it.
if
Oh, there
I'm
you are.
having a hard
Good.
time hearing, but I can see.
I had a point. John?
I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm not hearing things properly. So if you want to
I can hear you, John.
go
Can
ahead,
you hear
Brian.
me? Thank you. Yeah, I'm having some audio issues here as well. It's cutting in and out, but nonetheless, I'll try. I can appreciate Jason's position of the 2%, but in my mind, I think we have to demonstrate that we're going to support our employees. Given the job market right now, I'd rather pay a little bit more increase, i.e. 3%. I'd rather pay that now than risk losing some employees and having to hire new staff and having to train and all the rest of the costs that come with that. I think Liam's numbers, as he laid out, are very logical, very defendable, very fair. So I think I'm going to actually move the amendment that we include 3% in that main motion.
Okay, I'm back and I can hear. So sorry, Brian, if you could repeat that, I just missed.
Sorry, it was just a motherhood statement, really, but the upshot of it was I'm going to move the amendment to the main motion to include 3% in the motion.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Jim will second that. Okay, so any discussion on that? Just the 3% portion? Not seeing any. Okay, is anyone opposed to 3%? Michael? Okay, and Jason? So I have a count of 4 to Barb. You're against it as well?
As the mover, so we're doing this as an amendment as opposed to a friendly amendment, correct, Lindsay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my audio, I didn't get that again.
I was just asking for clarity. We're not making a friendly amendment. We are putting forth an actual amendment to be voted upon, and then we would go back to the main motion. I'm opposed.
So I think we'll have a recorded vote then. Maybe Deputy, well, you moved it, so I'm just wondering someone else to take over for John, but can you hear us, Mayor Woodbury?
I wonder, Madam Clerk, should we take a 5-minute recess? I'm having challenges here too.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe people that are having challenges, if you can disconnect completely, then come back to the meeting.
Okay.
So we'll have a recess at 12:13 for a couple minutes.
And maybe consider not putting your video on. That will maybe help.
Yeah.
If that worked any better.
Well, I don't know if that's any better or not, but I'll turn my camera off.
We're just on a quick recess, John.
Yeah,
So
I caught parts of that.
Yeah.
I've gone to my iPad now instead of the computer because this lovely laptop that the county gave me, it worked so well.
So Brian, is yours better now?
I can hear you fine now. I just turned my camera off to try to improve the audio.
Okay. Councillor Dobreen, are you there?
I am.
Councillor Frew? I don't think you left. You should be okay. I don't see Councillor Shearson. Give Mike a minute or two.
Is he caller 4 perhaps?
No, that caller's been here for a while. That's likely Mary.
Okay.
How we doing, Lindsay?
I text Mike. I'm just calling him quick.
Okay. So I'm on my iPad now. I can't see everybody, so you'll just have to let me know if you have any questions or comments.
There he is.
Okay, so we have everyone back that was here. Councillor Shipston left a while ago, so.
Okay.
Proceed.
So we'll call the meeting back to order. And last part I heard was Brian made the motion for 3%, and I was taking the vote on it, and I think Barb called for a recorded vote. Did I hear that, or did I?
No, that was Lindsay who said that she would probably do a roll call vote.
Okay, so why don't we do that then?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So we have a recorded vote on the amendment to add a 3% cost of living into the motion. Councillor Shipston is absent. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Frew? Councillor Frew, you're muted, please.
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
No.
Councillor Shearson?
No.
By a vote of 3 to 3, that has lost.
Okay, thank you. So we're back to the main motion. Anyone else have any other suggestions? Barbara?
My suggestion would be to find a compromise at 2.5, but I'm not sure that will.
Okay, are you going to move that then?
I could if the seconder is in agreement.
Okay, is there a seconder in agreement?
Barb, since we did the last one as an actual amendment, we'll do yours as an actual amendment opposed to a friendly amendment. That's okay.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So I'm looking for a seconder for that Barb's motion for 2.5%. And again, I can't see everybody, so you'll have to just speak up if there is a seconder.
There doesn't appear to be, Mayor Woodbury.
No, okay. So, any other suggestions? Or anyone want to move an amendment so we can get a number here? Jason?
I would at the 2%, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Seconder? Okay, this is going
Michael
really.
has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Yep. Like I say, I can't see everybody. So Michael seconded it. Any discussion on the 2%?
Brian
I
has
have
his
a-
hand up.
Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, John. I'm looking at the difference between 2%, 3% overall on Liam's calculations levy impact, and it would appear to me to be about $38,000. $38,000 hardly, well, it wouldn't buy a pickup truck. And everybody seemed content to put another pickup, full-size pickup truck in there. And yet, we're not prepared to support our staff at 3% wage increase. I mean, it upsets me a little bit that we're not a little more supportive of our staff after all the hard work they've put in the past almost 2 years with this pandemic. Everybody was fine last year to say 0.7, which was miserly, in my opinion. Now, I supported it as well, but everybody was fine to take advantage of the 0.7 increase. Now we have I would suggest, the obligation to step up and support the policy as it is, or at least the spirit of the policy. And yet nobody wants to do that. So I'm not going to support the 2%, but I just wanted everybody to know my feelings on where we're at with this thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And I agree with you. I believe that we have a policy that says what the percentage of COLA should be, and we follow it when it's low, but don't follow it when it's higher. What's the point of the policy? So to me, offering 40% of what the policy says, to me, it's not sufficient. It doesn't fly. That's just my opinion. Jason, go ahead.
Well, I guess I disagree. I didn't say we're going against staff. We're giving them, I'm proposing a 2% increase here. The way the economy is now, I dare say 70 to 80% of the taxpayers aren't getting a 2% raise every year. So I just think at 2% it's fair. And in no way was I putting the employees down. They have a pretty good job, I think most of them. This is nothing against them, but a lot of the taxpayers aren't getting this. So no, that's why I threw out the 2% number. But it's saying we're not being fair to them. I think we are. Just an opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing or hearing anyone. Okay, so if we could do a vote on the amendment, Lindsay, I'll let you do this.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So this is an amendment to add a 2% cost of living. Councillor Frew,
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne, Deputy Mayor Milne, are you there? You're muted.
I think he's having technical difficulties. He looks like he's frozen.
Brian, can you hear us?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rice?
Trying. Nay.
Yes.
Councillor Shipston is
Nay.
absent. Councillor Dobreen?
Nay.
That was a nay.
Opposed, yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
No.
By a vote of 4 to 2, that is carried. Or sorry, that is lost. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so we've tried 3 different amendments to get them going. Anyone have a suggestion?
I would suggest, Mr. Mayor, that we defer the decision for now until we come back to it another time. I know that Liam has some lead time he'd like for for adjusting the payroll, but clearly we're not getting anywhere with this today. So if perhaps at our next budget meeting, we will see some further impacts from operations or others, and we can have another go at this.
Okay. Barb?
I would agree, and perhaps we'll have our full complement to avoid a tie going at any number.
Okay, so Brian, that's a motion to defer?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so then on the motion to defer, my mind just went totally blank.
I'll second it.
Mayor
Yeah.
Woodbury, it'd be an amendment to change the motion to add a second clause that we defer it and remove the other clauses. And then
Yes.
we'd go back to main motion as amended, which would just be receive for information and defer.
Okay, so Brian moved it, Barb seconded it. Is anyone opposed to the deferral? Okay, that is carried. So then we'll go back to the main motion as amended, which includes the which is a deferral. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to that? And that is carried. Thank you for that suggestion, Brian, because, yeah, I think we're chasing our tails a little bit trying to get that one done. Okay. And next, I need a mover and seconder for us to resolve back to the special meeting, and that is at 12:26. Jim, we'll move it, and if there's a seconder, you could just say out. Jason. Okay. Any discussion? Is anyone opposed? Okay, that is carried. 9.1 is the motion for receiving the budget as information. I need a mover and seconder. Barb and Jason, any discussion? Okay, anyone opposed? That is carried. Next is 9.2, and that was the staff report cost of living index, and that was there was a motion to defer that from the committee of the whole. So do we have to change this motion at all, or Lindsay, or is it?
It'll just be an amendment from that, like a friendly amendment. I can change it instead of a recommendation. It'll just be in that council defer it.
Okay, so I need a mover and seconder for this. Oh, I got a mover and seconder, sorry. Any discussion on that?
I didn't get a mover and seconder for that.
No.
No, okay, sorry, I thought I did. So I need mover and seconder for that. Jim and Jason? Any discussion? Okay, and that is carried. How about a confirming bylaw? Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move.
Barbara still moves.
Okay, Brian will move it, and Barb seconds it.
Sure.
Any discussion?
Recorded vote.
Recorded, yeah. Anyone opposed? Oh, it's a bylaw, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder that I didn't get in my head.
That's okay. So a recorded vote for the confirming bylaw. Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston is absent. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And just before we adjourn, thank you for the email that has the stuff requested about the waste management and that. And we have a motion to adjourn. Moved by
Sorry, John, to interrupt. I see Jim Ellis has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'd just like to inform council that Side Road 49 has opened up here just before lunchtime, back for travel, public travel, and that there's a few finishing touches, but that'll be completed in the spring, but the majority of the work is completed with the guide rail installed.
Good news, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Well done.
Okay. So yeah, if there's nothing else, we have the motion moved by Brian that we adjourn. And I don't want a recorded vote on this, I don't think. So I'll just declare the meeting adjourned at 12:30, right on the nose. And thank you, everybody, for your input. And we'll see you, I guess, most of you, some of you tonight and most of you tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, John.